Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Schuck. I'm a professor of Roman Catholic social thought in the Department of Theology, and I'm also a professor of environmental justice in the School of Environmental Sustainability here at Loyola University, Chicago. Loyola University, Chicago is a private Jesuit research university in Chicago, founded in 1870, and I'm also a member of the university sector's platform of the Laudato Si action platform. I welcome you today on behalf of the Laudato Si action platform to our webinar on practical ways to teach an environmental ecological spirituality. I invite you to introduce yourselves in the chat with your name, your country, and your diocese or organization. The platform is a project of the Vatican Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development, with the Laudato Si movement as its global operational partner. Inspired by Pope Francis's encyclical letter Laudato Si, Care of Our Common Home, our participants undergo a journey of ecological conversion through a process of reflecting on their own or their organization's relationship to God's creation, assessing their ecological impact, and discerning concrete steps to live in better harmony with nature and at the service of those around us. We come from the most varied sectors, from families and individuals, schools and universities, parishes and dioceses, religious congregations, healthcare institutions, businesses, and other organizations, and we work towards specific Laudato Si goals. We hope today's webinar is another tool to help you on this journey. This webinar will explore how ecological spirituality and education shape attitudes, inspire action, and foster a culture of care for our common home. Rooted in Laudato Si's call for spiritual conversion and ecological justice, the discussion will highlight the role of faith in traditions, cultural practices, and educational initiatives that contribute to a holistic approach to ecological conversion. Bringing together educators, the event will examine existing gaps in ecological education, propose contextual solutions, and encourage the integration of ecological spirituality into community practices. Using the See, Judge, Act methodology to inspire meaningful and lasting change. Now, a few practical announcements before we begin. First, if you need translation, we are offering translations in Spanish, Italian, French, or Portuguese. You can access them through the Interpretations button at the bottom of your screen. Click the Interpretations button, then choose your language. There will be one presentation in Spanish, so we ask our English speakers to be ready to change to the English interpretation channel during that moment. A second piece of advice, the webinar is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube. You will be able to watch the recording on our Laudato Si Action Platform YouTube channel later, where you'll see all the slides and speaker information. And thirdly, as a way to build up this global community, we ask that your comments in the chat be positive and respectful. If you'd like to look at our net etiquette guidelines, which you agreed to in our registration, you can find them at the link in the chat. Soon we'll have a moment of prayer. Then our first speaker will have the participation of Paulina Nuñez from Francisco de Vitoria University. Our second guest speaker is Mackey, Brother Mark Mackey from Loyola University, Chicago. And our third guest speaker is Suzanne Mwangi from Tangaza University in Kenya. We'll close with questions and answers at the end of our session if time allows. Once the webinar begins, or once it ends, you're invited to join a community call immediately afterward to continue the discussion. If you haven't registered yet, you can still do so using the link in the chat. Just a reminder, this meeting is on a separate Zoom call, so you'll need a different link to join. Be sure to register to continue the conversation here. And before we begin, I would like to invite you to prayer. And in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering us to deepening our understanding of your Spirit in the world. We ask that you accompany us as we explore how to help young people heal the earth with your grace. We ask you to watch over Pope Francis, our inspiration in answering the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. We ask that you grant this through your Son, Jesus Christ, and the intercession of Mary, his mother. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Now I'm very happy to introduce our three speakers. Paulina Nuñez Jimenez is a Mexican researcher and professor dedicated to integral ecology and social responsibility. She has been joyfully consecrated in Regnum Christi for 25 years, and with 13 of them spent in Madrid, Spain. Currently, she serves as the director of Laudato Si UFVRC at Universidad Francisco de Vitoria. She is an associate researcher at UNESCO, chair in bioethics and human rights, with a master's in social doctrine and as a predoctoral researcher in integral ecology. Paulina brings a wealth of experience and from her evangelization experience and humanitarian visions and missions in Mexico, India, Equatorial Guinea, Uganda, and Spain. Brother Mark Mackey of the Society of Jesus is a Jesuit brother and faculty member at the School of Environmental Sustainability at Loyola University, Chicago. He's also part of the Midwest Jesuits, USA. Brother Mark teaches environmental science, eco-spirituality, and an integral ecology field course for Jesuits in formation. He facilitates an eco-anxiety group on campus and helps lead annual nature-based retreats. His work explores the intersection of faith, ecology, and social justice, drawing from the principles of Laudato Si and integral ecology. In addition to his teaching and pastoral work, he is engaged in international collaborations, integrating ecological awareness into education and community initiatives. Susan Mwangi is an adjunct faculty member at Tangaza University's Institute for Social Transformation and serves as the university coordinator for Laudato Si. Tangaza University, a private Catholic university in Nairobi, Kenya, is dedicated to transformative education that teaches minds, hearts, and transforms communities. With over a decade of experience, Susan is deeply committed to social transformation and environmental stewardship. As a Laudato Si animator, she has been instrumental in promoting sustainability at the university since 2022. Her love for nature extends beyond the classroom, and she enjoys gardening, has spearheaded various green initiatives, inspiring a culture of ecological responsibility on her campus and beyond. So, Paulina, Brother Mark, Susan, we look forward to hearing from you. To our participants, a reminder that you can submit your questions in Q&A section at any time during the presentations. So, Paulina, we'll start with you.
Muchísimas gracias a todos. Es un gusto estar aquí y es tremendamente entusiasmante ver la cantidad de países que se presentan, de organizaciones que están aquí y tener el lujo de escuchar a los otros ponentes. Así que gracias Michael por la presentación. Para este primer momento, no me venía al corazón ninguna mejor manera de empezar que con esta frase del Génesis, ¿no? Y vio Dios que era bueno. Hay una frase en español que muchos de ustedes conocerán, que es predicarle al coro, que es cuando estás motivando a las personas, ¿no? que ya están motivadas. Entonces, en esta presentación breve, voy a dar por hecho muchos conceptos que me imagino que muchos de nosotros ya los tenemos en el corazón, no porque no sean importantes, sino para ir un paso más allá. En los principios sociales que bien mencionaba Michael al inicio, ver, juzgar, actuar, a veces dejamos de lado el evaluar y el celebrar, que también son muy propios de la doctrina social. Entonces, quisiera en esta exposición examinar algunas de las carencias existentes, que de hecho es bueno que ya estamos en un momento tal que podemos mejorar la propuesta que estamos haciendo. Eso es un contexto privilegiado. Como ya hay un trabajo, ya podemos mejorar el trabajo. Hace 20 años no lo había. Entonces no podíamos estar en esta página, ya lo estamos. Y vamos a dar algunas pautas que pueden ayudar a la integración de la educación ecológica hacia la espiritualidad ecológica y que puedan ser aplicados en distintos tipos de comunidades. Yo vengo más del mundo universitario, pero esperamos que esto pueda ser sí, aplicable en parroquias y otras organizaciones. En primer lugar, recordar con gratitud que tenemos a la buena semilla. Entonces, esta buena semilla debe en este año también jubilar de alimentar nuestra esperanza. Lo que custodiamos es bueno. Y eso ojalá nos suscite en todos nosotros gratitud. Lo que conocemos, lo que compartimos, de hecho, ser parte de una comunidad como esta en este momento, eso ya es una buena semilla. No sé si lo piensan ustedes, pero les recomendaría que le dedicaran algo sí, de tiempo en el corazón, ¿no? De contemplación y de oración. Lo que tenemos entre manos con la ecología integral es tan bueno que merecería la pena dedicarle esfuerzo, trabajo, estudio, investigación, aunque no hubiera una crisis climática, y la hay, pero aunque no la hubiera, lo que hay, el regalo que el Señor nos tiene en este tema, merecería la pena aún sin crisis, y hay crisis. Y para dar ese paso de educación ecológica a espiritualidad ecológica, que como iglesia estamos pues no sé si obligados, pero sin duda sí invitados, hay que saber conectar, ¿no? ¿Qué del mensaje evangélico tiene que ver con esto que hacemos? Y es muchísimo, y no pretendo agotarlo, pero quizás sí dar algunas pautas. Y en la que me quiero enfocar en estos minutos es en la mentira de la ruptura de relaciones, ¿no? En la mentira de que estamos solos. El enemigo nos lo repite y la espiritualidad ecológica es una respuesta a esa carencia de relaciones. Y dando un paso más allá, quiero abordar en este momento estos tres binomios. Ante las culpabilidades, trascendencia; ante los reduccionismos, integración; y ante el individualismo, comunidad. Y que cada uno pueda hacer esos pasos de ver, juzgar, actuar, evaluar y celebrar. Trascendencia y culpabilidades. El reto al que nos enfrentamos ecológicamente es grande, no lo podemos negar. El camino del asombro es un camino lento, sin duda es lento, pero nos permite una mejor comprensión de la realidad. Hay un número, la Laudato Si, que me gusta especialmente, que dice que el mundo no es un problema a solucionar, sino un misterio a contemplar. Cuando nosotros como agentes pastorales, agentes catequéticos, formadores, etcétera, hablamos del medio ambiente solo como un problema, solo como una amenaza, que insisto, no lo niego, de hecho lo hay, ¿no? Pero cuando eso es nuestra única manera de hablar del tema, lo empobrecemos y alimentamos la culpabilidad y pocas cosas menos cristianas que la culpa, ¿no? Y más paralizantes. La Laudato Si nos ayuda a ver, y de hecho le dedica no poco espacio en la encíclica del Santo Padre, a hablar de que no hay una verdadera ecología sin una recta antropología. En este tema de la antropología, la responsabilidad es fruto de un corazón amplio, no de un corazón culpable. Y subraya y subsana la mentira de que estamos solos, ¿no? Cuando la Laudato Si no introduce, pero sí populariza un concepto de casa común. Si hay casa común, hay padre común y por lo tanto somos hermanos, ¿no? Entonces ya tú no eres el enemigo que tengo que cuidar que no se terminen mis recursos, o tú no eres ese otro al que no tengo por qué cuidar. Si hay casa común, hay padre común, somos hermanos. Esto a nivel teológico es muy potente y a nivel configuración de comunidades es muy potente, no solamente porque es profundo, sobre todo porque es real. Y piensen cada uno, ¿no? Cuántos de los problemas ecológicos a los que nos estamos enfrentando vienen porque se ha fragmentado esa comprensión de ser comunidad y nos han hecho creer la mentira de que estamos solos. Entonces, viva yo bien, que los que vengan después ya se busquen la vida. Nada menos ecológico, porque nada menos cristiano, ¿no? Que pensar así. El segundo binomio que podemos mencionar, sé que estos temas darían para mucha profundización, pero bueno, esto es un breve acercamiento. Es ante los reduccionismos, integración. Como os decía, hay que cuidar de custodiar, no ser custodios del anuncio. La culpa es mal consejero y es poco cristiano. Y el anuncio, lo que es propiamente evangélico, es todo aquello que nos hable de espacio, de libertad, de amplitud, de fraternidad, ¿no? El mensaje de la ecología integral también es esto, ¿no? Y no puede ser, no uses estos productos, reduce, que también, esas acciones son necesarias, pero ojalá vengan o después o siempre acompañadas de un anuncio cristiano, ¿no? Hay un Dios Padre que te quiere, que te ha creado y que te proveerá en contra del consumismo, ¿no? Hay unos hermanos tuyos que necesitan eso que tú estás acumulando, ¿no? Entonces, superar esta culpa que también es reduccionista. La complejidad requiere contemplación. La contemplación requiere algo de tiempo, interior y exterior. Y en este tema hay mucha complejidad. De hecho, a nivel sociopolítico, se considera la ecología, la crisis medioambiental como un problema súper complejo, como definición. Pues entonces requiere súper contempladores, súper contemplación. Nosotros sabemos sí, que ha hecho mucho daño, ¿no? Que algunas personas dentro y fuera de la iglesia ridiculicen la acción de aquellos que apuestan por el medio ambiente, con muchos calificativos, pues sí, ridiculizar, ¿no? La lucha medioambiental. No caigamos nosotros también en eso. Nuestro reduccionismo también puede dejar fuera a otros. Yo los invito y me invito a hacernos esta reflexión en la manera que tienes tú de cuidar el medio ambiente. ¿A quién estás dejando fuera? ¿El que no lo hace tan bien como tú? ¿Al que no lo hace con tus medios? ¿Al que no lo hace a tu tiempo, pero sí al suyo? ¿O a qué persona estamos dejando fuera? ¿O qué aspecto o qué voz no estamos sabiendo integrar? Y no solamente ver quién no nos integra, quién no nos tiene en cuenta. En otra dirección. Todo esto requiere cuerdas espirituales, todo esto requiere espacio de oración. Y después de planeación y ejecución y investigación, estupendo, pero primero de un plantarse, ¿no? De cada uno delante del Señor y hacernos estas preguntas. También cuando nosotros somos simplistas dejamos a otros fuera. Y frente a la mentira y a la crisis de individualismo que ataca a la sociedad, comunidad. La comunidad no es lo mismo que un grupo espontáneo, ni de amigos, ni de colegas, es otra cosa, ¿no? Las comunidades las bendice el Espíritu, gracias a Dios, los congrega el Señor, pero se trabaja también con mucho esfuerzo humano, con muchas decisiones. Como os decía, ¿no? La Laudato Si denuncia que la burla de algunos debilita la propuesta. Nosotros también podemos debilitar la propuesta cuando no sabemos acompañar nuestro mensaje de búsqueda del bien común y de la ecología integral sin una verdadera lectura evangélica de teología de la creación, ¿no? Integrar lo diverso, incluso cuando es insuficiente, cuando no es tan alto como tendría que ser, no es claudicar, es encontrarnos. Muchas personas a veces han denunciado que el acercarnos, ¿no?, a ciertos grupos medioambientalistas que no son de la iglesia. Y dices, ¿y de qué le va la iglesia si no es de hablar con otros, ¿no?, de encontrarse con los otros? Creo que de esto iba desde el inicio, ¿no? Eso no es claudicar. Y que el bien no se pueda en su plenitud no quiere decir que no se pueda de ninguna manera. Eso también es espiritualidad. Hace 2 días hemos celebrado el Día de la Encarnación, de la Anunciación. Yo siempre he pensado, bueno, no siempre, pero de unos años para acá he pensado que ese tendría que ser el Día Internacional de no tener miedo, ¿no? De decir, nosotros podemos encontrarnos con medios que puedan acercarnos al bien, acercarnos al respeto ecológico. Siempre habrá una manera, por pequeña que sea, la podríamos encontrar. Y por último, solamente quiero apuntar algunas acciones que hemos podido realizar en la universidad de la que soy parte, la Francisco de Vitoria del Reino Christi, no porque sean los mejores, sino porque son de los que he sido parte. Y os puedo apuntar muy brevemente. Apostar por el asombro y por la belleza, un camino siempre de servicio a la Iglesia y a los más necesitados, y propuestas que, siendo sencillas, se puedan gestionar en comunidad y puedan ser escalables y replicables, es decir, que otro fácilmente lo aplique. Y si no es solo con nuestra voz, mejor, siempre en comunidad, con otros. Os enseño unas imágenes muy sencillas, solo para cerrar mi aportación. Hacemos cada año, una vez al año, un retiro en Barcelona para conocer la obra de Gaudí a la luz de la Laudato Si. Y es un retiro, es claramente un retiro espiritual, ¿no?, en el que además tenemos a alguien que nos acompaña a comprender la obra de Gaudí y por qué Gaudí hablaba como hablaba de la naturaleza y de la ecología, ¿no? En segundo lugar, conferencias en la universidad que hemos buscado que siempre sean interdisciplinares y a ser posible con otros departamentos de la universidad que nos ayuden a comprender este mensaje como algo amplio, complejo y por complejo interdisciplinar. Y la tercera diapositiva son tanto salidas a la montaña como ayudamos a la reforestación del Seminario Diocesano de Toledo, y nada más poético que sembrar en un seminario, ¿no?, que por definición es el lugar de la siembra. Por mi parte es todo. Aquí os dejo este código QR para quien quiera conocer un poco más de lo que realizamos aquí en España, y muchísimas gracias por este espacio y esta oportunidad.
Gracias, Paulina. Excellent. Thank you so much for talking about your experiences at your university. I'm going to turn it over now to Brother Mark Mackey, who is going to present his experiences from Loyola University, Chicago.
Okay, thanks, Mike, and thank you,
Well,
everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
Sorry, Brother Mike, just want to make a brief interruption. We're just going to make a switch with translations, just to improve our French translations. So I'm just going to make a brief pause to make some updates. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
So it seems we're ready. Please, Brother Mike.
Parece que estamos listos, por favor, hermano Mike.
Estamos prontos, señor.
Okay, I'm going to remind myself to speak slowly because I get really excited with this topic and the pleasure to talk about the past 10 years of my vocation as a Jesuit brother, which coincides with the past 10 years of Laudato Si. And I thought when I was entering the novitiate that I would be leaving behind most of my past life, and part of that past life was being an ecologist, an environmental scientist. That was part of my discernment, but this new life with a new group, I thought I thought I would be becoming a very different person. But as I found, and I think maybe you have found, our vocations just kind of, God deepens who we already are and the desires we already had. The first place I got to really try on my vocation, like all Jesuit novices in our first year, we do the 30-day spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius. And I went up to the Guelph Jesuit Center in Canada and came to find out it was not only beautiful and an operating farm, but they had an ecological spirituality mission to their work there. One way this came up in my prayers, walking on the retreat grounds, I came across this Stations of the Cosmos, this way of integrating into my prayer and this retreat experience, the beauty of existence, the beauty of creation, starting back from the Big Bang and kind of contemplatively walking through these stages of the formation of our universe. And I got to see in my prayer time that God was allowing me, and this retreat center was helping me fold in my love of nature and the universe, the one thing that brought me to my relationship with God and to my vocation. And I didn't need to steer away from it. I could actually integrate it into my prayer life, just like Pope Francis invites us to do in Laudato Si. One of my early experiences as a novice in working was to go to a high school, a Jesuit high school, to teach environmental science. And I had taught environmental science previously in college and university level, but this time as a Jesuit, and after reading Laudato Si and engaging it more, I was able to teach in a different way. Environmental science was not just carbon footprints and understanding our impacts on the planet. It was involving the question of what does it mean to be a human, like Paulina was saying, and anthropology, and what is it that we're being led to, and what is this way of relating to the world? And it added a new element. It was similar but different to my previous times of teaching environmental science. And I saw that young people were responsive to this and capable of taking on this way of thinking about our existence. When it came time to further my studies, there were 3 different options, and I knew I wanted to go to Loyola University, Chicago, because it was part of the mission of this university, especially with people like Dr. Mike Schuck, who we've heard from, Dr. Nancy Tuckman, the founding dean of our School of Environmental Sustainability, and previous projects they had worked on. An international Jesuit ecology project was housed here. And so not only did I get attracted to this work that was being done, but my superiors in the society could see the good work being done and say, this is part of a continuation and a deepening of our mission and the church's mission and my own vocation. So it was neat to see this influence early on. When I returned to Loyola, I got to accompany students in great ways. One way was taking a tropical ecology course to the Amazon. I had also visited the Amazon before as an ecologist researcher, but this time I found myself spending more time helping students cultivate awe and wonder and these more spiritual questions that are part of our way of engaging our faith and deepening our experience of nature and biodiversity. I also had a chance to deepen using my own voice. I entered ecology and environmental science through ecology, the hard sciences, but I really had some growth to do in how do I stand up for justice, use my voice for justice, for what's right. Loyola was a good place, led by active students, led by fellow Jesuits, to learn how to use my voice to work towards what I think is a better world and what Pope Francis is calling us towards. I also, during my studies, had the chance to integrate intellectually the idea of this question that was growing for me is how can we accompany young people, especially young people who are either majoring in environmental science majors in their studies or just very interested in this? How can we help to frame our understanding of faith and spirituality in a way that includes the earth and earth stewardship and is more accessible to many younger students who don't necessarily feel attracted to or invited in by the church? And that was able to influence and create a lens for my work as I moved forward. I was supposed to go to India in these days, but COVID changed my plans like many people's plans. And so I returned to the state of Indiana in the States and to Brebeuf High School. And one of the things that was very interesting about Brebeuf High School and personally peaceful for me was the wooded grounds on the school's campus. We had a running trail and some beautiful woods that I would walk every morning. But one problem that occurred was from an invasive species, the non-native emerald ash borer beetle. And this beetle targets a particular tree, the white ash tree. And the white ash tree was very common on Brebeuf's campus. And it caused many of our mature trees in the canopy to fall, to die. And so it raised a question in our Buildings and Grounds Committee of how do we take care of this? And it ends up in this time, we were able to have funding to hire contractors to remove the wood. We also found money to have native plant contractors come in and help us re-landscape and restore the woods, which was nice to have this opportunity. However, I had been rereading and studying Laudato Si, as well as at that time, the recent Laudato Si action platform. And there was one in particular that stood out to me because I thought, yes, we could pay money to fix this problem, or maybe I could make it my project, but Laudato Si calls us to community engagement, to loop in other people and to make this a community and not just an individual thing, as Paulina was mentioning. And I realized at our high school, we had a vibrant conservation club, many young students interested in nature. They had already done good work. Another thing that occurred to me was a brother-in-law had taught me about a method called winter sowing, where we can take native plants here in the Midwest of the US, it gets cold in the winter and the seeds need to winter germinate. And you can create these small greenhouses out of jugs or salad containers, and you can create a safe space for them to grow, and you can help them grow and then plant them later. And I thought, well, we can come together as a school. And I asked the Conservation Club students, do you want to help with this project? And they all said, let's do it. And so they put out advertisements. We had a call in the whole school to gather these milk jugs and to create these small refuges, these greenhouses for native plants. And on their own free time, students showed up. We put together many of these milk jugs, and it was so successful that the faculty and the staff of the school were jealous. They wanted to get in on the action. And so we made that part of our annual faculty staff retreat, was to make our own native plant greenhouses, accumulate many that could eventually be planted out into the forest under the new open canopy. And this reminds me of Pope Francis's words that, and this isn't for individual action, although that matters, but real ecological conversion will happen in a community context. And I realized we could have very easily missed this opportunity if we had simply paid money to a contractor. Around this time, it was time for me to return to Loyola University to teach full-time. And I had the good pleasure of being able to create a course on eco-spirituality to have our young people engage the religious traditions, especially in Catholicism and in our Jesuit context, to see just how does environmental stewardship and kind of more of the secular environmental science approaches, how can they be informed and enhanced by a spiritual worldview? And how can our faith communities also benefit and be enhanced from an ecological worldview? And so this was a real treat to teach this course. The students responded very well. In fact, at the end of my first semester, some of my top students complained or said, this is sad, it will end. I enjoyed the community and the space where I could share. And so I told them, well, it does not need to stop. We can create a group. And I said, would you be interested in maybe a support group, an eco-anxiety support group? And all 5 students said yes. And they brought a few friends. And we had our first meeting. We weren't sure what it would look like, but at the beginning, we didn't have a name. So somebody went and wrote on the board, Eco Warriors. And we had an inspired first meeting. And at the end, somebody went up and changed 2 letters. And now we call ourselves the Eco Warriors. And this has been a tradition. We've now met for 3 years, every week. And this has been one aspect of my ministry that has felt the most rewarding, makes me feel like I'm living my call to religious life. And this building of community, this creation of community, this support group, this place to commiserate, but also to cultivate hope has been very inspiring for me. 2 people on campus in a separate part of campus heard about our Eco Warriors group, and they were in campus ministry. And they said, hey, Mark, we've been thinking of a nature-based retreat. Would you like to collaborate? And so we started a collaboration, and it became the Loyola Eco-Spirituality Adventure in the Fall, or the LEAF Retreat. We've now had 2 annual retreats. Each retreat is full with a waiting list. We have another one coming up, and it's been very successful. And it's a chance to move from just the studies or the talking about or the intellectualizing of the state of our environment and our relationship with our planet. And it allows a space for students to come together, to step out of that hectic lifestyle, as Pope Francis says, and to remind us that any true integral ecology needs us to take time aside for reflection, time for encountering our creator in nature and slowing down. And it's easy to forget that part, but it's always great to see the smiles and the community that we build. And as Pope Francis says, it's a chance to create a culture of encounter, not only with each other and those communities, the human community, but also our encounter with the divine in creation. And we realized, in the Society of Jesus, we have prioritized one of our top 4 global priorities of work is care for creation. But sometimes not all of our Jesuits have taken an environmental science course recently, or maybe ever. And so we decided to build that into our formation, just like we have our men learn theology and philosophy. We now have a course which Michael Schuck helps with in integral ecology. Last summer was our first one, biodiversity focus. This summer, part 2, we have a water focus. And next summer, part 3, we have a climate change focus, and we will then rotate these. So all of our men in formation studying to be priests or brothers will have taken immersive week-long summer courses in integral ecology. And this is also in response to a call from Pope Francis and others saying this should be part of if it's part of our church, it should be part of our formation. And nearing the end, one last part of living out this integral ecology and eco-spirituality has come from a recent collaboration. I met Dr. Paula Tallman in this program called Theology of Healing Earth in Action, hosted at Loyola. Brings in different faculty members to teach students, high school students, about spirituality, ethics, and science integrated. And from that collaboration, I learned about Dr. Tallman's work linking water insecurity to gender-based violence and disproportionate impact on children and women in different parts of the world. And we now are part of a collaborative work. I've been invited in for the integral ecology lens, and we've collaborated with the University in Peru and with Faye Alegria, who's kind of asked for this incorporation of integral ecology into their mission worldwide. So I'm excited to see where the Spirit continues to lead, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Mark. And being a colleague of yours, I can attest to the attraction that the students have really had toward eco-spirituality and reaching their heart and listening to them as you do so well, Mark. It's been astonishing what you've been able to accomplish. Well, let's turn to Susan, our last presenter, and hear what is going on at her institution, Tangaza University.
Thank you very much, and good evening to all of us. Good day. And it's a great pleasure to share what we are doing at Tangaza University, looking at ecological spirituality and the nexus between ecological education and how we are living Laudato Si. As a university, we have, I see a lot of relationship with the departments that we have and the schools that we have, the School of Biology, the School of Education, and the School of Art and Science, looking at people who will work with communities, preparing our theologians to serve in the church and in other mission, and also the School of Education, where we are training educators. So the topic on ecological spirituality and ecological education is really meaningful to us, and especially connecting the 3 together. So I begin by us understanding and seeing where we are in terms of how do we contribute to a shared responsibility in caring for our common home. And this, as it emanates from the document written by Pope Francis that emphasized on need for ecological conversion. The ecological conversion can only happen when we are also having conversion, or at least a touch of mind, heart, and even what we do in our service. So largely, we are called to have a shift in the attitude, the value, and the action. And this, again, we see largely basically borrowing from the two aspects. How do we offer our training? How do we impact in the education that we give? And how does that transform to enable us to live and to be converted and to have a change of heart? So at the center of the teaching and at the center of Tangaza University, we see that this is quite integrated in the various programming that we have. And therefore, we are able to promote care for creation and even care for humanity. We consider ecological education as a transformative learning process that that enables us to have environmental responsibility. And this calls for our students to be able to take action, especially in care for creation, both at individual level, but also at the community level, where they are able to adapt sustainable practices. And at the end of all this, we see that there is change of attitude, the skills, and even participation more in the community activity. In linking ecological education, we see largely the interconnectedness that there is, and borrowing from the words of Pope Francis, everything is interrelated, and therefore, as pushing for our learners, as pushing for our students that we are animating in education, there is need for them to realize that everything is interconnected, and therefore, even as we are animating the courses that we animate, there is need to emphasize that. So we have this integrated in our curriculum, and especially where we have the themes of Laudato Si being integrated in every of these. Also having green initiative, both at the university and the communities that we are working in. Community-based learning is an approach that we integrate in our teaching, and it gives our learners an experiential learning to be able to care for creation, to see practical ways that can be taken in to enhance the aspect of care for creation. So again, there is that kind of aspect or approach that is emphasized in encouraging our learners to move beyond the classroom. And that is where the service-based learning is much more emphasized. When we look at ecological spirituality, I see it as an easy thing for us to understand, and especially for our students, more based on the aspect that there is a good integration from our African perspective. There is that kind of connection that we have with nature, care for creation, and it automatically becomes very easy, even when we are sharing such topics on ecological spirituality, the care for creation. So for us, we embrace, or from the African perspective, we know that our culture enables us to embrace and to see the aspect of interconnectedness, and especially the aspect of Ubuntu, where we say that I am because you are, and whatever we cause to the nature, then that will also have an effect even to we who are living. And therefore, being guided by this, there is an easy way for us to be able to bring the aspect of ecological spirituality to our learners, and it becomes easy to understand because there's that reflection with the divine and the sacred, and also with what our cultures, looking at the taboos that we have and how they enable us to care for creation. So how are we living Laudato Si at the university? I would say, even though Laudato Si has been integrated in the different teachings that we have had great emphasis, and especially with this, the call for Francis' journey since 2021, there is much more vibrancy in terms of the activity that are undertaken. So with this, we have seen, besides the teaching, we also have activity that are coordinated from the clubs and the movement, where the students are able to engage in different activity and action. So in essence, both at the social, I would say at the club and movement level, but also at the curriculum level. In what ways then do we see all this tied up? Looking at the 8 goals that we have for Laudato Si, we have largely been able to work on the 4 goals in a bigger way. Ecological education, where this is quite integrated, courses offered in environmental science, in ecology, that sometimes I'm co-teaching with a colleague, ecological spirituality, which we will see as Laudato Si movement being able to partake in different ecological activity that build the ecological spirituality. Also, the aspect of community engagement, quite elaborated, and we'll have students taking different community-based learning, working with community in different projects. So all these are able to enhance our care for creation, but also the aspect of caring for not only our common home, but also the needs of the community, working with the issues of ecological justice. The aspect of also promoting sustainable lifestyle. And some of the projects and the initiative that you're going to see are largely to promote sustainable consumption and even production through different talks that we'll have on waste management, sustainable waste management, that calls for the learners, calls for our students to be able to take up ways to enhance all these sustainability approaches. So since our inception and since we started the journey of Laudato Si, would say as a movement and as one who is coordinating this activity at the university, we've been able to create that awareness about Laudato Si and the message of Pope Francis, and this has seen us make milestone in different ways. One of the key things I would say, or we would say we have managed, is the screening of the letter. And out of this screening, we got to have many people becoming interested to know what Laudato Si is all about, and even what the letter, the video as shared by Pope Francis. So with this activity, including the establishment of community garden, we see a lot of interest for the care and students wanting to participate in this activity. So in essence, we can say we have Laudato Si as a document now being lived at Tangaza University and being integrated in the various activities that we have, working with community in promoting sustainable practices. In enabling and enhancing the aspect of ecological spirituality, the movement not only carries talks, but is also involved in animation of mass at the university, having also talks in regards to various activities, like when we have the Lent campaign. Currently, we are running the Lent campaign, where we again emphasize on the need for care for creation and other ecological and other topics that are meant to support the care for creation and also addressing the integral ecology. So part of this is the establishment of the garden that we have had, the Laudato Si garden, where we are able to showcase sustainable practices of growing our food in an organic way. So this is a garden that shares or is able to showcase the best practice that we can have in our community, where we are producing in a sustainable manner and offering food to the community that is, I would say, nutritious and even healthy. So in such activity and through this garden, we have had a lot of teachings that the community are able to pick from. Again, the activity that we have been involved as Laudato Si is the animation of mass during the key events that we have, Laudato Si Week, the season of creation. And during such activity, we are able to share much more on the different themes of Laudato Si, the different messages of Pope Francis. So these are part of the students and the group that we have when you are animating mass. campaigns that are calling for addressing the issue of the fossil fuel. We have been partnering with Laudato Si, the African office, and part of the members have been actively engaged in addressing the issue of the fossil fuel. So all these are activities that have made us to leave Laudato Si, to make Laudato Si not only become a document to be read, but also something that has life, something that has activity to be responded in. In conclusion, I would say the call for ecological conversion can only happen when there is the integration of education. And that is where we are saying the change of attitude, the change of what we believe in, and whatever we believe in, how can we live it in a way that cares for both the creation and also for humanity. So for us, is a word of thank you for this, and even the activity that Laudato Si is managing to do at Tangaza University. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Susan. That is so inspiring what you're doing at Tangaza University. Thank you very much. We're really getting close to the time that ends our webinar. So I want to thank all the speakers for everything that they've shared. We could always go further into the conversation. So I invite you to join us at the community call that immediately begins after this webinar to continue the discussion. The opportunity to enter that community call should be in the chat area. And as we close, a big thank you to everyone who's connected from around the world. We've had a great participation today. Our thanks to Maureen and everyone who's been behind the scenes with translations and the electronics to help this happen. If you'd like to receive news from the Laudato Si Action platform or sign up to the platform, visit the platform at www.laudatosiactionplatform.org. And I would really personally invite you, if you're interested, to join the university sector partners. We're the group that really tries to push out the Laudato Si message to universities. And you see the great work Paulina and Mark and Susan is doing. And we'd like to be able to really join forces together and push out better and greater things for spirituality and environmental education for our students. If you're interested in joining our effort, go to the website, the Laudato Si Action Platform website. There's an email address there. Communicate through email that you're interested in participating in the university sector partners. I would also ask you that, if you're already signed up to the Laudato Si Action Platform, don't forget that you can upload your version of your reflection and your Laudato Si plan for each calendar year on that participant platform. Also, if today's speakers reminded you of a story that you'd like to share, you can send it to also at info@Laudato Si Action Platform, and that'll be put on social media and shared with your permission. So we'll begin the community conversation in 10 minutes. And just finally, just a big thank you once again for those joining us at the community meeting. And we'll see you. And for everyone else, we wish you the best for the rest of the day and blessings to your spiritual growth, all of our spiritual growth with the earth each day, especially during this season of Lent. God bless. Bye-bye.